Meet Giuseppe Stigliano, a global CEO, keynote speaker, and one of the most respected voices in marketing. His work has been translated into 8 languages and reached more than 100,000 people worldwide. Giuseppe has advised some of the world's top business leaders, helping them to navigate a marketplace that changes by the minute. In this episode, Giuseppe will challenge everything you thought you knew about marketing and how it's not just for businesses. I repeat, it is not just for businesses. This is an essential skill that every professional and every individual needs. You'll learn how to market yourself, how to build meaningful connections, and turn the fear of change into your framework for growth. If you've ever wondered how to stand out in a world that's drowning in choices, this episode is your blueprint. The timing of this is perfect because as we are now in the modern day 2025, the world is changing rapidly. And you are in an industry that has a long history in the world, in marketing. And I'm wondering for you, psychologically, what are the biggest changes in just society that have been impacting the way that people create marketing material and then also consume it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me tell you something. I always thought about marketing as the canary in a coal mine, which is this wonderful way of saying that reminds us that back in the day, miners used to bring with them a canary, a little bird. Why? Because sometimes when you are 5, 10, 20 meters under, the surface and you're in a mine, there might be some gas. And the canary detects the gas before anyone else and tends to die. And since the canary tends to sing a lot, as soon as the canary stopped singing, humans knew that there was something. And since then, and they would leave the mine, of course. And since then, the expression canary in a coal mine basically means that something is a sensor that detects trends or ideas or something that is happening way before it becomes apparent in other industries. I think marketing is precisely that, and for a very simple reason. Marketing is what we all do every single day. It's not just about selling products. Every morning when you wake up and you pick up that specific blazer or that specific pair of jeans or that specific hat or whatever other, let's say, option to present the product, meaning yourself, in a more appealing way, you're doing marketing. Marketing exists even in nature. Imagine some birds, some animals, in order for them to attract a female or a male, they tend to embellish themselves, right? They tend to present themselves in a more interesting, attractive way. That's precisely what we do with packaging when it comes to a product, or that's precisely what we do when we present our services in a fair, or when we create brochures or other marketing materials. So the bottom line is, marketing is it's always there to interpret signals before, because you need to surf those signals to use them and to leverage them to tell your story or the stories of your products and services in a way that works culturally and helps people connect with other people. So I think marketing is super important. And in a world that changes at the speed of an algorithm, of course, it becomes even more important to understand those signals.
Incredible. This is a strong start. And now for the person listening, they know exactly why I had you on the podcast. This is powerful. Now I want you to market a little bit to the person who's listening. So let's say after they listen to this episode and they hear you talk about marketing and how they can implement this effectively in their lives to have better relationships, better careers, and just a better life in general. If they're able to take everything that you say and put it into action in their lives, what really changes for them?
So Let me just distill everything I've said so far in one powerful line, and then let's build on that. Most people think that marketing is about making people want things. It's actually not. It is about making things people want. It's not making people want things. It's making things people want. Okay? If we accept that, if we absorb that, marketing moves from being a pushy sort of tool that we use to convince people that they should like us. It becomes a tool to understand what people out there are likely to be interested in. And we could adapt. That's completely different, right? Because if we're always there listening to the signals, trying to see what's working in a specific moment, in a specific culture, in a specific country, what's working in that group, what people are talking about in a specific group that I might be interested in. Maybe I want to attract a specific audience. Maybe I want to become part of a group of peers that share common interests and I want to belong. And so I need to listen to what they say. I need to interpret signals and I need to absorb it and become a different, I wouldn't say necessarily better, but a different version of myself so that that group will find me interesting. Not the other way around. It's not about pushing me. It's not about convincing them that I'm good, so they should welcome me. It's not. It's the other way around. And this is true for everything, right? Even in our case, if you're a keynote speaker, you should be there to serve. You should be there to give to the audience. And if you interpret the signals, you are ready to give to the audience, whether it's like a ballroom, a meeting room, a group of friends, or some people around the table for dinner, whatever is the audience, let's say, when you interact with a counterpart, no matter the size, you should think of yourself in terms of what value am I bringing to the table? And once you do that, once you're serving, you can get something back, digest, build on that, and give again, and receive and give. And then at some point, it will just become natural. I think this is genuine marketing. If we go back to the original definition of marketing from Philip Kotler, who is today 94, and I've had the privilege to co-author 3 books with him. So I've known him for a while and I know him very well. The original definition of marketing that he gave 25 years ago was marketing is about value creation. Full stop. It's not about pushing products. It's not about pushing services. It's not about pushing yourself so that people will hire you or will like you. No. It's about creating value. If you create value, people will like you. People will like your product. You will naturally attract buyers of whatever you have to sell.
Hold on. I bet I can make you flinch. How much time does updating your CRM take away from actually selling? Is it hours? No. It's probably days, right? That's what I thought. Folk, the CRM is flipping the script. They've built a brand new type of CRM that is simple, integrated, and proactive to use, especially if you're focused on high-touch, high-ticket deals. With Folk, you can sync your email to your CRM and integrate with all of your favorite socials, capture leads, and track interactions on LinkedIn and WhatsApp without even leaving the page. Folk finds contact details in one click and uses AI to help you identify the best leads to follow up with. No need for additional tools. Picture it, a CRM that does all of the busy work for you so you can focus on growing your business. Recently named one of the fastest growing companies by the Financial Times Sifted, Folk is the tool of choice for over 3,500 teams all around the world. And Negotiate Anything listeners can get an exclusive 30% off your first 3 months with the discount code NEGOTIATE. That is NEGOTIATE. If your business is focused on building real relationships and closing deals, you should try it for yourself today on folk.app. Discount code NEGOTIATE. Kwame, what's the TLDR? Let me tell you. What is Folk? It's a CRM and extension that helps businesses build real relationships and close deals. Why is Folk better? It is simple, integrated, and proactive to use. And what is their value proposition? The Folk CRM does the busy work for you so you can focus on growing your business. And what is their tagline? It's like the sales assistant your team never had. And now, back to the show. Okay, this is a paradigm shift. It is a complete paradigm shift because essentially what we're saying is that we have to start with creating something that is valuable, that is desirable, and begin there. But a lot of people start more tactically and they say, all right, I have this thing and I want to push people
Correct.
to this, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that is often what leads to the reflexive resistance to marketing because people can feel the directionality is askew.
They push back. They push back. The paradigm shift that you're mentioning is you don't wake up in the morning with a question that is, what else can we make and sell? You wake up in the morning with a question that is, what else can we do for the customer? And again, this is true if you sell products, services, or if you're just trying to market yourself, meaning telling the story of yourself to someone who is probably interested in hiring someone like you, or maybe you want to belong to a club or you're applying to become part of an association where they need to evaluate your profile. Whatever is the objective, if the mindset is what else can I do for them as opposed to what else can we sell, can I sell, I think it's the right way to do it.
This is fascinating. Okay, so Giuseppe, I want to get your perspective on this. When we think about marketing in a professional sense for a product, for example, that's where we usually think about marketing applying. But we recognize, yes, we can use marketing tools or methodologies or mindsets as it relates to marketing ourselves individually, maybe our personal brand professionally. But I'd also like to explore marketing yourself romantically as well. So when it comes to our perspective on marketing and focusing on service, does it apply to all of these different domains?
Definitely yes, for a very simple reason. Let's make an experiment. I'll make it with you, but everybody who's listening can do it. Okay. I ask you to think of someone who is part of your life that you have met recently. So you have actively decided to welcome this person into your life, and that this person is still part of your life. Okay. Think of someone. All right. Now, I bet that like $1 million that I can describe the 5 fundamental steps of your relationship with this person. All right? That's right. I bet that there's been a moment in which you have met this person. You met this person at some point.
Yep.
Sure. I bet that at some point, out of the thousands of people that you meet every day, this specific person clicked. You said, he or she has something, right? So we go from awareness to appeal. And since we're social animals, your personal intuition, I kind of like that person, is not enough. So you need social validation. So what you do, you ask for information. You ask friends that you might have in common, what do you think about that person? Or maybe you just ask Instagram because you go there and you check the profile of the person to see what kind of people or what kind of brands or what kind of whatever experiences, what kind of person based on the pictures. So you go from aware, appeal to ask for information because you need the social validation. If the 3 steps are moving forward, like I'm going smoothly, after asking for information, you get a confirmation. So what you do, you want to see that person again. So maybe you send the person an email, a message. You ask one of your friends to make sure next time we have dinner together, that person is involved. Whatever is the way, but you decided to act. So we have 4 A's now. We have aware, appeal, ask, act. If that action confirms your intuition, confirms that that person is a genuine person that you like to spend time with, whatever the nature of the relationship, you probably act again. and again and again. And if I asked you today, what do you think about that person? You would speak highly about that person. You would tell me, she's great, he's great. You would speak positively. You would advocate for that person. So here are the 5 A's: aware, appeal, ask, act, advocate. Okay? We have 5 A's that we can use to describe every single human relationship, right? Let me tell you something. This is not a framework created to describe human relationships. This has been created by Philip Kotler, who wrote the first marketing book 35 years ago to describe the relationship between people and brands. It's called the 5 A's of the customer journey. So here's the bottom line. The reason why marketing applies to everything and anything in our life is that humans only know one way to build relationships. And that way goes through these 5 A's. That way is the human way to build relationships, whether with a product, a brand, another fellow human being, or a service, or whatever. So here is why it's so important today more than ever to understand the logics behind marketing, because it's just, there is so much noise around. There are so many people, so many brands, so many opportunities, so many options. There's the paradox of choice, as we call it. And the only way to choose A or B is good marketing. And good marketing goes through human relationships, or the same way as we build human relationships, what we do for brands and products. Makes sense?
Amazing. Yeah, it makes so much sense because as you were going through this, I started to say, all right, well, maybe I can challenge it. What brands or individuals have I interacted with that didn't fit this? And yeah, it's always this, other than like family. You don't often get to choose them, just kind of
You don't choose, right? So kids, parents, brothers, sisters, in that case, it's not an active choice. So you get that.
it doesn't count. It doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
This is powerful. And I really appreciate the simplicity. Because now we can see the flow. And now, where in this process do you see the majority of mistakes being made personally and professionally, whether it's like a brand, a company, or an individual?
Yeah. I would call it a finite mindset. So this idea that this is who I am, whether you like it or not. And so marketing yourself, it's all about push, because it's all about convincing people that this is who you are. You cannot change too much. I'm too old to change. I'm too old to become something else. I'm too old to change. And same for product. This is the product I've got, and my job is to sell it. I think this is a finite mindset, as if the options, the resources, the time at our disposal, the characteristics of the product or the service we sell were finite. The reality is that in this world, again, considering how many options we have, considering the tech tsunami that is about to hit our world in the next few years, you can't survive with a finite mindset. It's all about unlearning and relearning stuff. It's all about putting into discussion and changing the way we do things, including ourselves. So the idea that this is who I am, this is what I've got, whether you like it or not, it's suicide. I think we should rather approach our life and our job with an infinite mindset, as if the rules were not, okay, these are the rules of the game, and your job is to win the game. This old school mentality. I would rather approach it with an infinite mindset, which says, okay, the rules are defined, but they will change, they will evolve with the context. Because the word, again, is changing at the speed of an algorithm. And by definition, if this is the speed, change would be exponential. And if change is exponential, old rules, even though we're talking about a few years ago rules, are obsolete. I was with a consulting firm this morning. I gave a talk for their company town hall. And the HR director told me something that shocked me. She told me that she had an interaction with a newly appointed manager who is 25 or 26. And she was telling her that she doesn't know how to deal with young people because they're very different from her. Have different priorities. They have a different mindset. And she's 26. So what I'm saying is the word priorities, what we like, what we don't like, how we want to work, how we approach work, whether or not we want to buy a car or buy an apartment, whether or not we want a desk or we prefer an open space in a co-working, whether or not we want to go to the office or work from home, all these priorities are changing as we speak. So I think to answer your question, the biggest mistake we make is to approach life and work as if the rules are clear, the perimeter is defined, the variables are clear, are there, and we know how to play. That's not the case.
So, Giuseppe, I want to commend you because the answer that you gave is objectively correct. And at the same time, so hard to digest, like so hard to accept. I don't want that to be true. I want to be able to play the finite game where everything's the same and we could just use a cookie cutter approach to success. And what it sounds like we're saying is that the underlying operating system of humanity may more or less stay the same, but the whims of society, the values, the desires, the interests, the technology will be ever changing. And so we have to be adaptable and willing to shift. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work because I know as you were saying that, I was like, oh man, I know he's right, but I don't want to have to keep
No, nobody
changing.
wants, but nobody wants. Our brains evolved over the last few centuries or thousands of years in a completely different way. It evolves to fear and stay away from everything that is not normal, that is not the usual. This idea of leaving the comfort zone and thinking out of the box is great, but it's precisely the opposite of what we've been working on for the last few thousand years. Because, we had to protect ourselves against animals in the prehistorical times, against fruits that you couldn't eat because they will kill you. And so the evolution of the brain was, there's this nice word that is heuristics, which is basically mental shortcuts. So you have a mental shortcut, that is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. Let's do it. These are the rules. That's what I was telling before in terms of what are the rules of the game. But
Yep.
That's why we're risk averse. That's why organizations are risk averse, because it's many people, many risk averse people build big organizations, and big organizations are risk averse. Companies are not in the business of risk, uncertainty, change. Companies are in the business of stability. Otherwise, you cannot have economies of scale, economies of scope, economies of learning. You cannot have efficiency if you have to reinvent the wheel every other day, right? So it's normal that it's hard to digest. And even for me, while I say this, I know it's gonna be hard and a nightmare. But that's the way it is, right?
Yes. And that's the thing. We have to accept it in order to be able to do anything about it, not just resist
Correct.
reality. And for the folks who are saying, okay, cool, I want to do a better job of let's focus on the personal side a little bit. I
Yeah.
think that's more interesting too. When they're thinking about how they can market themselves, whether it is from a professional branding perspective or let's say a just socially, whether it's for romantic partners or just trying to be perceived as someone who has status. What types of marketing tips or advice or principles should they be keeping in mind as they try to accomplish this?
So as I've said at the beginning of our conversation, marketing is not about making people want things. It is about making things people want. If you want to make things people want, in other words, if you want to present yourself, whether professionally or personally, in a way that makes sense, that attracts, that interests other people, you need to figure out what they want, what they need, what they desire. And so the first rule is what in marketing we would call segmentation. So let's understand the market and let's build segments of groups, if you want, of people with similar interests, similar passions, similar beliefs. Once we have those segments, you need to choose which of those segments are your target audience, which of those segments are more interesting for you. So you do what we call targeting. So you decide to target one specific segment or two or three, whatever, depending on how much time, energy, willingness, budget, whatever it is, the resource that you want to allocate. So you segment, you target, you decide who you want to deal with, and then you position yourself. Okay. So let's say the segmentation is I want to be perceived as a great professional by headhunters in the food and beverage industry. So you need to figure out where they are. So you build a segment, you study, you understand them. If they have a blog, you need to read those conversations. You need to understand what they want, what they desire, what are their priorities. You should probably find someone and speak with that someone who is in that industry to understand the jargon, to understand their priorities, to understand what they talk about, to understand what keeps them awake at night. Once you have that, you can decide to target that audience with some relevant information, with some relevant value proposition. Once you have that, your decision is how do you want to position yourself? So how can you bring value to those people? Why should they think you are a good fit? And so you build your profile, you craft your value proposition so that it aligns with the preferences of your target audience, of the segment of people that you want to attract. Once you have that, you need to tell the storytelling. You need to approach them with a story. Data are relevant, and that's what you do in the first place, but then you need to tell the story. And the way you tell the story, if the way you tell the story is such that builds on that positioning, nurtures that positioning, creates that perception of value for your audience in the right segment, it means that you've done a good job. You did a good job in terms of selecting target audience. You did a good job in terms of understanding what they wanted, and you did a good job in terms of crafting the value proposition. You're telling the story in a consistent way, and it works. If it works, the rest is relatively easy because you're surfing at that point. You are on the way. It's just about surfing the right wave. It's just about doing it again and again, learning by doing, fine tune, but you're surfing. But the very first part is tough because everybody's trying to do the same, right? So
Right.
if you want to summarize, which is also a very good framework for keynote speakers, I think you should focus on the pain point of the audience, what is relevant for them. You should focus on why you are a good option for them to solve that pain point. And three, what is your uniqueness? Otherwise, everybody can do the same, right? Everybody can find a pain point and sort of create a story about themselves as someone who could find the solution to that pain point. But what is your unique view on that? Why you are different is what I believe makes the difference between survive and thrive.
So good. What I'm realizing, Giuseppe, is that they say that you should begin with the end in mind. So you want to figure out where you want to go and then make your plan based on that. But I think one of the mistakes that people make in marketing based on the way that you're describing is that they just begin at the end, which is the storytelling, because people just think the marketing is the story that you tell and you just try to convince people that it is true instead of doing the work beforehand to make what you're saying true, to make your story actually truly compelling.
You know what? The reason why people think that is because at some point, it was true.
Oh.
When marketing started becoming a thing after the Second World War, there was a very peculiar situation because it was the economical boom. And so supply, industries were booming. And so there was a very peculiar situation in which people were coming back from war. They were starting working in factories. The work week was reducing the number of hours. And they had, for the first time in their lives, some money to invest and to spend. And there was a very peculiar, unique situation in which demand exceeded supply. If demand exceeded supply, I'm oversimplifying, but the only thing you need to do is telling the story. It's just telling them that there is a product called refrigerator, that there is a product called washing machine, because they don't have it. Electricity was something new in the 60s, and all the products enabled by electricity were there for the first time. People didn't use much soap, sadly, back then because they couldn't afford it. It was not a thing. And industries managed to convince people that they used to use soap every day. So if you go from nothing to something, or even from much, because industries are booming, because demand is booming, honestly, the only thing you need to do is tell the story. Let them know how to use that product because they didn't know. So it's also a bit of education. It's not just telling them the story, and they will buy it. So I guess it's just a normal misconception, and it's a consequence of a moment in history in which marketing was all about push, 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 because we needed to. This is the opposite now. Now, supply exceeds demand by far in any industry. This is a global world. You can buy whatever you want whenever you want it. That's the paradox of choice I mentioned before. If you have too many options, you don't know how to choose. When you go to the supermarket, you have 25 toothpaste brands or tomato sauce. I have no clue, right? I don't have an opinion. I don't know. I don't know how to choose. So the only way you have to choose is the packaging more attractive? Do I recall that brand? Is it top of mind because maybe I've seen someone telling me the story, or maybe the way they're telling me the story through the package is more interesting because they say it's biological, or it's bio, or it's farm to fork, and that resonates with my values, and so I'm going to buy it because the story they're telling me is better, and the intrinsic value that they're trying to create for me is more aligned with my value set, then I'll buy. But it's a hard choice. Too many options. So I think I just want to sort of release the people who are thinking that it's normal. It's just that this is another word, and we need to adapt.
Powerful. This makes so much sense. So much sense. And the game has changed. And I'm wondering, tell me if this resonates, because we deal with the paradox of choice. We have too many choices, we are less likely to make any kind of decision or choice in that situation. Would it be fair to say that a goal of marketing is to become or have a product that is so powerful and so good that people don't feel like there are other choices, that you become a category of one?
The father of management, Peter Drucker, once said, the ultimate role of marketing is to make sales useless. As simple as that, right? So if you build something that makes sense for an audience, they will buy it by definition, right? So it's not about pushing. You don't have to. So I think this is precisely what you have just said with different words. That's precisely the essence of marketing. Making things people want instead of making people want things.
That is powerful. Giuseppe, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. And especially for us doing a brand transition, the timing of this episode is perfect. And I know you are a globally, internationally recognized speaker, and you're building more in the United States. So before you go, I want to give you an opportunity not only to tell you the listeners about the book, but also what type of speaking you're doing and how they can get in touch.
So if you're looking for someone who gets on stage and tells you how you can sell more of what you do, I'm probably not the right speaker. But if you're looking for someone who can inspire you and reflect on your customer experience, on how you're serving your clients, if you like the idea that serve is the new sell, and that's the right mindset, well, I'd love to be with you in the next few months to share my thoughts, my experiences, and also to talk a bit about my books with the father of marketing, Philip Kotler, and what I have learned in the last 25 years as a CEO of global marketing firms all over the world.
Amazing. Giuseppe, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Perfect. Awesome. And hey, before you go, I always have Simone pop in and ask, see if he had any follow-ups from anything that I missed. Simone, anything coming to mind for you?
How to blend our uniqueness with what people need, because maybe we analyze and we do our studies and we see, oh, people don't need us, or people don't need the way we see things. So how can we fit on what people need if we are unique?
It's the other way around, as you've said, right? It's not about, this is my unique perspective. Let me find people who are interested in buying my perspective. That's wrong, right? It's not about what else can we make and sell. It's about what else can we do for them, right? So first step is, what are the pain points? What keeps them awake at night? Whatever the target you have chosen, right? What is that keeps them awake at night? In my case, as a speaker, the pain point for my target audience, the pain point is there are too many channels of communication and too many sales channels. You know, they can sell online, offline, on Instagram, brochures, and the call center, too many things, right? So this is the pain point. They don't know how to choose the right channel. And they all feel that. So I know, as a matter of fact, that they all experience that, they all feel that, and they struggle and they're wasting a lot of money. And I push them and I say, would you say that your strategy is a bit more spray and pray that's an actual decision? And they all say, shit, yes. Okay. So let's say this is a pain point. Why am I the right person to answer that question? Because I've spent the last 25 years doing this, basically. I'm simplifying here, but I have a track record that says, okay, this guy's credible to talk about this. And I've worked with 25 years with 250 companies all over the world. And, I have my CV says that, okay, this guy's entitled to talk about it. Now, what is the answer that everybody's giving to the industry for this pain point? The answer is a strategy called omni-channel, which basically means that you need to be everywhere, omnipresence. You need to be where your customers are. So let's say you are transitioning. Let's say you want to do more, talk more about a different topic. So you want to attract and address a larger audience. Consultants will tell you, you need to be the podcast, you need to be on Instagram, you need to be on TikTok. You need to make sure you also have a WhatsApp whatever number to interact with people. Perhaps you need to give them the possibility to send you emails and whatever. That's the theory, right? You need to meet your customers where they are. This is what consultants are telling clients to deal with the fact that they say, oh, there are too many channels. They tell them you need to be everywhere. My original perspective is, no way. This leads to spray and pray. The solution is not omni-channel, it's opti-channel. You need to optimize the available channels. So you make an inventory of the channels your clients are using. And then you say, okay, let me think about it. Considering that I can't be everywhere, I don't have the budget, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, I don't have the content, I don't have the bandwidth to be everywhere. Where are the channels? Which are the channels that I can master, where I can make the difference, where I really have something to say, where I really have some strong content, and you double down on that. And it's not just me. Trader's Joe is one of the best retailers in the world in terms of revenue per square foot. Okay? We're talking about huge numbers. It's like in the top 3 every year. They don't sell online. They don't. They have decided to optimize. They've said, okay, there are too many channels. I cannot afford to sell online because I need to compete with Amazon. I can't do that. So let me double down on physical stores and let me invest the money that I would invest online to train my people so that they can add value when they interact with human beings in the store, so that when people come, they have a superior experience. Oxxo, which is in Mexico, is a retailer. They have 23,000 stores. They don't sell online. Bottega Veneta is a major fashion brand. They are not on Instagram. And you say, your fashion brand, you're not on Instagram? They're not on Instagram because they couldn't afford it. They didn't have a big enough team to deal with that. So it's not this idea of being everywhere. It's old. It's broken. It's better to be in a few channels with a relevant presence. Okay. So this is my unique perspective. It's baked with experience, data, and I can mention some brands who are successfully doing it. I didn't start from my perspective. I started from observation and pain points, and I ended up saying, okay, considering this, this, and that, I think this is what you should do. So to answer your question, I think you should always start from the pain point and not from your uniqueness, and you should carve out your uniqueness considering the pain points of the market. We're here to serve. The job of a business is to build a customer, not the other way around.
Wow. Yeah, man. This is fascinating because for me, I'm thinking about it just for our company and what it is that we're working on too. It's a lot of this is hitting because it feels overwhelming to try to be on every channel, and every channel is so different as well. And so it's the only way to optimize the channel is to like go deep on it. And this is very validating too, because I think a lot of people who would listen to this, they would say, yeah, it feels like we're playing a losing game, but we lose by not playing the game too. But that last part is a false assumption, because it's just the fear, right? That holds us back. What is it? The acronym of fear: false expectations appearing real, and that's what holds us back. In that
I have two other versions.
Ooh, tell me.
So fear is, I always play with that in my talks. I say, guys, I know this is overwhelming. I know you might feel lost. And the natural reaction of human beings when you feel a bit overwhelmed is fear. And they say fear is the acronym for forget everything and run. However, I encourage you to change the acronym and to read fear in a different way. What if fear was the acronym for face everything and rise? And I guess this is a very powerful way to close on a higher note, on a more inspirational way. You just encourage them to turn the worst fear upside down and to turn fear into motivation. And I think it's a powerful one.
That is powerful. That's good, man. I appreciate you. This is great. And I know you're good, but I want you to know I want to say it. This is exceptional. If you've made it to the end of this episode, you're now part of our negotiation community. Every conversation, every deal, every tough negotiation shapes the world that we live in. And the more we grow together, the stronger our community becomes. If this episode gave you something valuable, don't let it stop with you. Share it with someone who needs it, a friend, a coworker, or anyone looking to take more control of their conversations, their careers, and their lives. Every time we bring somebody new into this space, we make negotiation a tool for real change. And if someone shared this with you, take a second to acknowledge that. They see you as part of this journey and as someone who belongs in this community. Let them know you appreciate it. This is how we build something meaningful. We do it by looking out for each other. So if you haven't already, join us. Subscribe, stay connected, and help us to grow this movement, because when we become better negotiators, we create better outcomes for ourselves and for others. Hit subscribe and share this with someone, and let's keep building together. I'll catch you in the next one.